Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gig, the ultimate podcast for learning about jobs in the music and film industry. I'm your host, Mike Redman. Very rarely have I met someone that is a music artist and also has a second career in an entirely different industry. Well, today, I had the chance to speak with country music artist Bryan Ruby, who also plays professional baseball. One of the striking things about my conversation with Bryan is how candid he is about his life and his dreams in the music industry. Judging from his rich baritone voice and country roots, he's well on his way. So put your hands together and welcome Bryan Ruby. Thanks for joining me this morning. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're leading an exciting life these days, aren't you?
Just one day at a time. Yeah, on the road.
Are you on the road a lot, huh?
Yeah. I'm actually up in New York City right now. I got a gig tomorrow night.
Oh, so where?
It's at Rockwood Music Hall, which is in Manhattan. So,
cool.
Yeah, but then getting back to Nashville after that.
I was going to say that's quite a cultural shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different place, but it's cool to visit. You know, it's cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of energy. I used to go up there a lot, and I had a job up there, and God, every time I went up, it's just like you get this boost just walking down the street. I mean, it's kind of weird. We'll just jump right in if you don't mind, so that you can get to bed.
I'm up. I mean, after the show, I'm after the show tomorrow. I'm going to sleep. I'm not going out. But today I'm up. I mean, I got a ton of energy, so we can go as long as you want.
I just thought it was kind of fascinating that you kind of have two careers that run simultaneous. Would you just talk about that? I mean, how you juggle being a professional baseball player and a country musician. I mean,
yeah, there are two things that require a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely short on free time, but these days we're wrapping up the baseball stuff. This is my last season playing ball.
Oh, it is? Wow.
Yeah, and you know, I'm cool with that. That was a decision I made, definitely going in the music direction. But growing up, it was always, you know, you think about the kind of music that you hear on the ball field, it's country music for the most part. And so those two worlds actually go hand in hand. And those have just been the environments that I've grown up in. And it's actually good nowadays because when we're in season, we play at night mostly, except on the weekends. We play under the lights at night. So we have a couple hours free in the morning. And what can I do during that time?
Yeah.
Write a song. I always have my guitar with me. I've written hundreds of songs on the road. I'm just a journeyman ball player. So, you know, I'm not really destined for the big leagues, just an independent league, minor league type guy. And it's just been a blessing for me to play ball this long and to keep it going. And it's wrapping up, and that's okay. And we have some momentum with music, and we're starting to build and release songs, and that's definitely the direction I want to go in.
That's cool. I can tell with your baritone. I can tell your speaking voice, your baritone, man. This is
that low country.
It takes a real different set of skills to play ball. I mean, and sing, but there's a lot of discipline that's kind of the same, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it is. And a lot of failure too. Especially with baseball, you fail. Let's say you fail 7 out of 10 times. You're hitting 300. You know, but that's a lot of failure, and you're an all-star if you hit 300. Get 3 hits.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
In songwriting, it's actually the odds are worse. You're not going to get 3 hits out of 10 songs that you write. I mean, maybe if you're like Desmond Child or somebody who's truly like an otherworldly songwriter, but for most people, you got to write a whole lot of songs to maybe get one good one. And so it's just showing up every day, putting the work in. Sometimes you're feeling good, sometimes you're not.
Yeah,
and that's a common misconception about baseball players. And when I was a kid, I used to watch major league games on TV and think to myself, man, those guys must feel so good every day. They're major league baseball players, right? They're super athletes. And actually, being a pro athlete, um, the truth is that most days you don't feel great because you play a lot of games and
Oh, yeah.
you're not truly at 100% because it's a tough travel schedule.
Yeah.
It's a lot like being a musician, one place to the next, going and going and going, and so it's actually the best players are the ones who can still perform when they're only feeling 70% of their best on any given day, and it's the same thing with successful songwriters. I've noticed they can show up in the room and they can put everything else to the side and they can really focus in and write a good song. So there's a lot of similarities between the music world and the sports world.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have a lot of friends in Nashville. Nashville seems like to be the place that songwriting is a craft. You know what I mean? I mean, people there, wow, they tear them apart like script writers for a hit TV show, just every single word, exactly what it means. And do you like participate in any of the, I forget what they're called, when you write,
Co-writing?
Yeah. Well, it's co-writing, but yeah, it's usually 3 or 4 people sitting in a room, tossing songs around. Do you do that?
Yeah, that's most of what I do every day. It's writing with different people, and it's a lot like dating. You put different combination, you write with a different writer and you see how it works out. You decide if you want to write again or if you don't, then you look for other writers, and it's feeding off of each other's ideas and trying to come up with the best song. And we say the best song wins.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you got to put your ego to the side. You think you have a good idea, but somebody else has a really good idea, then you put your ego to the side. You'll write your idea in another day and you focus on the one that's really good. And it's an exercise in discipline too, because it's a whole lot of writing and a whole lot of crafting and constantly thinking about, with the songs that we've written, well, maybe we can change this, make that a little bit better. Yeah. Take this part out, add this in. This part's a little too long, so it's really it's a craft. It's something that I love. That's the whole reason I moved to Nashville, is to write songs.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, so what's one of the best things to you about just being in the music business?
I think the coolest thing for me is actually, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, hearing people's songs before they're released.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Because working with the writers, they'll say, oh, we wrote this for so-and-so and let me play it for you. And I love it when that happens, I get an inside look at what somebody else is about to release. And I've talked to the writers and a lot of people, like, I've been in certain situations where people will see a hit artist and people will really freak out. Like, oh my God, it's so-and-so. Can I get a picture? Yeah. And I don't really like crush on the big artists. Yeah. So much. I truly, there'll be some obscure writer who had a hit in like 2005 or 1995 or whatever. And I will see them, and that's when oh my God, it's so-and-so. And
yeah, that's cool.
Who's that? It's like, that's the guy that wrote whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm really all about the writing, and it's a songwriter's town, and I'm a very, very, very small part of it. And that I love being part of it.
Do you find yourself writing about specific subjects, or is it your life, or is it the world? You know what I mean? Is there some motivating or some kind of focus for your music? Sometimes it's. I actually think the songs turn out better when you can really focus in and apply it to a certain situation. Yeah. Because sometimes a songwriter will say, "Let's write a song about such and such," in a relationship or whatever, and it really helps me if I can have something to relate it to from my life. Yeah. It's more real. It's more authentic. We write songs about all kinds of different things, and
a lot of the songs that I'm releasing now, I have a song called Baseball Country.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I heard that. It's great. Yeah.
Thank you. It's sort of the soundtrack of life on the ball field. That's kind of the theme of my debut EP, which is going to be out at the end of this baseball season in October.
Awesome.
So it's called Diamonds Are Forever, and all the songs on it feel like they could be ballpark country. Mm-hmm. Like you can really hear it in that environment, and that was authentic for me. So that's what really spurred that, and I felt like it was a great place to start with my songs that I'm releasing myself as an artist. Another one that I did, The Standouts, recently, which was a duet with Ty Herndon, is a tribute to people that we know who are really standing out from the crowd. And we sort of have a common message of don't be afraid to stand out.
Here's to the standouts, the picked on and the pushed down. We are who we are, and we have the heart to stick out from the crowd. The way we're living might make us different, but if no one's...
That's why I want to talk to you a little bit about that song in particular, because it's a really beautiful song. I can tell it has a special meaning to you and Ty.
Yeah.
So did you both, you co-write it? Did you track down Ty? How did it work out?
Yeah, I co-wrote it with my friends Chad Sellers and Anthony Fiddler. Chad's a great songwriter from Iowa, lives in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Anthony's from Canada, sort of near the Vancouver area. Uh-huh. And so I originally released it as a single, just as a solo artist this past fall, and was getting a lot of messages from people who heard the song, who were telling me about people who are standouts in their lives.
No, that's cool.
And so I was kind of thinking about redoing it as a duet and getting somebody who himself is a standout, who has gone through lots of challenges but persevered.
Sure.
And is still here making music, doing good things, hitting the road, playing shows. You know, he has a foundation that's great. So that's why we asked Ty, and he jumped on it. He said yes. And
that's cool.
I was very nervous, to be honest, because he's a great singer and somebody who just has outstanding vocals. And so I was really taking voice lessons for months and practicing and trying to be ready so that I could keep up with him. Yeah. When the time came, when we hit the studio, and I was proud to do that and to be able to hang with them vocally. And we just played the song together live for the first time, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's a nice moment.
We all, especially creative people, we all suffer from imposter syndrome, you know.
Right.
I don't deserve to be here kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was that at the end of that recording, was that kind of like a moment when you thought, you know what, I'm pretty good at this?
I definitely felt like I could hang.
Yeah.
Like that was something I was nervous about, like especially vocally, because, you know, and it definitely, another moment where I sort of felt that was the concert for Love and Acceptance, which this is a big concert with lots of label artists on it, artists who are a couple steps ahead of me, like Maddie and Tay, Chrissy Metz, a whole bunch of other great artists. And I felt like when we were on stage in that moment, and especially just hanging out backstage, I definitely felt like, okay, these people, I really respect them, but they're human. Right.
Right.
I saw some other artists getting nervous before they went on stage. You know, that's a very normal thing. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can be a part of this crew. I can hang with these people, and I felt like our performance we hung with them. So it was definitely an affirming moment for me, because I still feel like, to answer your imposter syndrome question, I still feel like the kid who was playing the open mic at the coffee shop back home on Tuesday nights in front of two people. singing songs that I'm glad nobody's ever heard because they weren't that great, and doing covers of other songs, and now it's real. And we're on stage, and we're playing gigs and touring and opening up for people, and it feels very real. So luckily, I mean, some of that imposter syndrome is going away little by little every day.
It's been a hell of a year. How did you see that who I was ain't who I was gonna be? I could have been right, was probably wrong.
So let's talk about the studio a little bit, because I grew up in the studio, and I was an artist as well at one point. And that's where I think a lot of people, you get in there, and that's when the nerves, the red light syndrome, that moment. Did you sing with Ty? Did you guys sing together, or?
We tracked vocals at, I had originally tracked vocals from the single version at Santee Sound in Nashville, which is in North Nashville, with that guy David Axelrod, a great vocal producer. But the duet we tracked at Soundtrack Sound, which is right on Music Row, owned by Warner, with Mark Lonsway was the vocal producer. So that's a big historic Music Row studio. It's been around for a while, and it definitely felt very real. Like, all right, we're driving down Music Row, parking in the parking lot, and go record. And, but again, I felt like I don't necessarily get the red light syndrome as much as the on-stage performance nerves.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
The studio is a really, really vulnerable environment, because the only thing that's on is your voice. Nothing can hide it. Not big drums or people screaming in the crowd, or that distracts from the actual vocal. It's truly your time to shine. And I really felt ready for it, and I felt prepared.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a really cool feeling to feel like I had confidence in front of the mic, and but that was confidence that came from training.
Yeah, lots of training, right.
In baseball, I used to have a motto that I would write on the inside of my ball cap: trust the training. And because we would train so much and take so much batting practice and so many throws and so many ground balls, and you train it into your system so that when you get to the moment, it's just like another time getting a hit. And it's the same thing. And with singing, I felt like I trained it in, and now I can do it. And I'm going to keep training, of course, but I truly I idolize iconic vocalists like Freddie Mercury, Steven Tyler, some of those rock guys who can really, really sing. And I want to be one of those people one day that somebody looks at me and says, man, Bryan Ruby, he can really sing. They really put on a show. And we're not there yet. I know that, and I'm not afraid to admit that, but we will be there one day. That's awesome.
I'll share a quick little story with you. I was signed to Atlantic at one point and was recording at Criteria down in Miami at a really famous time, when Bee Gees were in one room and Crosby, Stills and Nash was in another room. I mean, Barbra Streisand was in another room. And we had a singer in our band, and it was mostly my music. And he had this incredible voice, just those people that you see that like Freddie Mercury. It's just natural. It's just already there. They don't have to work at. They have to work at to sound bad, So, but they liked the sound of my voice, and I spent 8 hours recording one track, and it turned out okay. But I struggled for years after that. But then I decided that I kind of like singing. And over time, I was, fronting a band, and then all of a sudden, I remember thinking, "Wow, my voice is starting to sound pretty good." Now, had you heard me for the very first time, you might think I always sounded like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to happen to you too, that idea of just continually doing it and doing it and doing it. You know, the little pitch things, the little, you know, phrasing things, the breath things, the chest voice, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it all comes just by doing it. It's like exactly like you said, sitting in that batting cage, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's failing too. And it's pushing yourself. And
Yeah.
you know, my voice, when we do our training, I'll push it. And sometimes it'll crack. Like, but I know, therefore I know my limits.
Yeah.
What I can get away with on stage, and I push it. And then all of a sudden, you know, a month later, I'll realize, okay, I can get to this note that I couldn't get to before. I was talking to one of the Beach Boys last night. We were at an event in New York. This guy, John Cowsell, who I met and was talking to him about improving as a musician over the years. And he was telling me he's so excited to get back to Nashville in October and write more and working on a new record for one of his projects. I'm not sure which one. And it's like that constant drive to get better at your craft, no matter what the commercial market says about it. Right. You know, there's times when you're going to be popular and times when you're not. But as a musician, you just kind of have to keep working. And a lot of the popularity part of it is based on external factors that are way out of your control. Oh, yeah. And oftentimes when we write a song, I have no idea if it's going to be a hit or not, you know, in the writer's room in Nashville. And a lot of it depends on the marketing and how much money they put behind it. And right. So that's all external stuff. And for me as an independent artist, it's truly just trying to get better. Yeah. And you keep getting better and you try to find enjoyment in the writing and the creating. That's what can create like a lifelong passion. Come on.
How important do you think it is for a musician, I mean, like yourself, that's, you know, really into the craft, really into writing, really a creative person, to understand the business that they're in? You know, the business side.
I think the business side is something that I'm actively trying to understand every day. Ty actually said a great piece of advice that he gave me, Ty Herndon, after we recorded. He said, learn as much as you can about the business part of this. Yeah. Because it is a strange business that can't easily be explained in a textbook. Right. You know, it's constantly changing, the music industry, and I think it's very important to, you know, we have to, it's like left brain, right brain. You have to devote a certain amount of time to the artistic pursuit of it and getting better at your art. And then you have to devote a whole nother portion of time to getting the business down and making sure you're making good decisions. And so it's very important.
It's like everybody that's an artist is also an entrepreneur,
right?
You know, and so you have to take on the social media part. You have to do these kinds of things. You have to understand, where's the money go? What do I get every time it streams on Spotify? Right. How do I get to do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
So
you wear like 8 different hats as an artist, songwriter, you're sometimes a tour manager of yourself, right? You're sometimes I'm driving my truck to cross the country to go play gigs, and social media manager, like, you know, music rights manager, making sure everything's uploaded correctly with the PROs on BMI. And I mean, it's a lot of, you wear a lot of hats, but I think another thing that I believe is, like, it's not the instances of labels taking new artists that have nothing out and are truly very green and signing those people based off of talent are few and far between anymore. And I think that a lot of people, because you can build yourself, it's possible with social media these days and the streaming, a lot of labels are not betting or guessing on super green artists.
Right.
Instead, they're waiting for you to do the work yourself.
That's right.
Build up to a point where you're signable and they can take a shot on you and have a good chance on getting their bet right. And so, but in order to get there, you got to do all the work yourself to build up to that point. So that's a stage that I'm in right now. I'm an independent artist. Yeah. And you know, I'm trying to work as hard as I possibly can every day and think outside the box and create my brand and my sound of music. You know, everybody writes down, well, some people write down like New Year's resolutions. I know this is June when we're having this conversation, but some people might write, have a song that gets streamed 100,000 times or 1,000,000 times or whatever. And my resolution for this year was find my sound. You know, like find, and I think it'd be ever evolving, but it was find a sound that because we're all influenced by different things. I was influenced by a lot of 80s arena rock, Queen, Aerosmith, like I mentioned, mixed with Mellencamp and early Kenny Chesney and Tim McGraw, and that's all of those people are sort of me, kind of combined into one. I'm not really like any one of them in particular, but I definitely draw influences from all of that. But yet I have an artistic vision of like, okay, what I want my sound to be like. Upbeat, up tempo, really rocking with some songs and genuine, authentic storytelling, and so fusing all that together and trying to find a vibe is a big focus of mine right now, and you know, it's definitely a process oriented goal, like something that I can work at every day instead of that pure numbers goal, like get a certain number of followers or streams.
Yeah, that's really difficult. That's, I mean, and it's so far away from the art, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
So let me ask you just one last question here. Do you have some advice for somebody else that's kind of like navigating the business and just starting out? Because you're on the ladder. Somebody that's looking at the ladder.
Yeah, I'm on the ladder. I'm not super high on the ladder, to be honest, but I'm climbing up. Advice, I would say, you know, I think about a younger version of myself who was like that kid in my bedroom writing songs and not knowing if I should do this or not, and showing up at the open mic and on Thursday nights and playing in front of 2 people and stumbling through original songs, and the advice is just keep going. You know, you never know who you're going to meet on any given night. I would say put yourself in different situations where you can meet musicians. You want to find your people. Like last night, I went to another songwriter that I follow on Instagram. I saw he had a show in New York and just so happened to be here, you know, getting ready to open up for that gig tomorrow night. And I realized I was standing next to one of the Beach Boys. Like, and we exchanged numbers and hopefully get to hang out when he's in Nashville next. But you truly don't know who you're going to meet, and just building a crew of musicians that you hang with is really important for not just your career, but probably for mental health too.
Oh,
you know, you want to make friends, and you want to hang out with people who understand you. So that's definitely a piece of advice for younger me, who was like just a little bit of a loner, sitting in my bedroom writing songs by myself.
Yeah, get out there.
Yeah, you gotta get out there, get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Wow, Bryan, thank you. This is awesome, man. Pleasure to meet you, and I wish you so much luck in the future, man. I'm gonna be following you.
Thank you. It was great to be on, and I love what you're doing with the podcast, and my pleasure. I'll come back anytime.
Okay, man. You take care of yourself. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Theme music for Gig with Mike Redman was composed and produced by Other Animal. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of Gig with Mike Redman. If you like what you heard, I'd ask that you subscribe and like us. And finally, if you have questions about a job or ideas for an episode, contact me at gigwithmikeredman@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Mike Redman, signing off.